Part 37. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 364. Garen stroked the suit of armor, and his thoughts involuntarily drifted to a higher level of armor. The technology of the secret mechanism has actually become so sophisticated. Since there is such an armor suit, there should also be a stronger armor suit. Carve more powerful solidification spells on the armor, collect the power of the totem that is usually emitted, and use it when needed. Garen was slightly surprised. In this way, a totem master with such armor would be much stronger than the average totem master. If he had a set of armor that was powerful enough. He gathered his thoughts. He reached out and pulled the cord at the head of the bed. Jingle bell. A crisp ringing sound rang, and soon, crisp footsteps came from outside the bedroom door. A somewhat uneasy Lala soon appeared at the bedroom door. When she saw it was Galen, a hint of surprise appeared on her face. "You are finally out? I have received several letters from you recently. They are all urging you to report somewhere. The person who sent the letter has mentioned it many times." Seeing Garen appear, her face suddenly felt completely relieved, and she seemed to have a backbone. Garen straightened his collar, walked out of the bedroom, and sat on the wooden sofa in the living room. "Where's the letter? Let me take a look. Didn't you say it would be reported in 2 months? Why are you urging me now?" Lala walked to a vase in the corner of the living room and poured out the envelopes in the vase. They were all rectangular yellow envelopes. The person who delivered the letter said that there was an emergency and manpower was urgently needed. Lara stacked all the letters according to time and placed them in front of Garen. Then he stood aside and waited for instructions. From time to time, he looked at the thick full body armor on Garen's body with strange eyes. "Look at the sleeveless white dress on her body again." Garen picked up the first letter, opened it and took out the paper. "Unfold the letter paper. There is only a short line of words on the white paper. Due to unexpected circumstances, the report date has been advanced. Please ask Deputy Team Leader Galen Terry Jones to take up his post in Wellsburg as soon as possible." The following is the date, May 11, 3568 in the solar calendar. There is also a red circular seal, and the words on the seal can be faintly seen: secret. It is a secret word consisting of 3 letters. Galen opened the rest of the envelopes, basically urging him to take office as soon as possible. The most recent one was from 3 days ago, on the 14th. "I don't know what kind of position your Majesty has arranged for the deputy leader. But it shouldn't be too bad, and it won't be too good." Garen put down the envelope. "Are there any other letters?" He looked at Lala. "Yes, and there are invitations from noble families and banquet invitations," Lala replied quickly. She ran out again and soon took a stack of invitations from the mailbox at the door. They were all luxurious and exquisitely made. Invitation. Galen glanced at the signatures above, and only selected the invitations from the Terry Jones family, Earl Bakesy and Viscount Langwilly, and was about to throw the rest aside. Suddenly he saw a familiar name, Bylan. Prin. Ahiphies. There is a signature on the dark metal cover, followed by a platinum pattern of 2 crossed swords. Garen picked out the envelope, opened it and pulled out the letter paper. "My dear friend, dear Ahashia." "Oh no, it should be called Galen now." "Okay, Galen, how are you doing now? I also heard about the Terry Jones family. You are in a very bad situation now. If you need help, just let me know. You know my grandfather's relationship, so don't be polite to me. In addition, Endalu has been sent to me by your cousin. I will arrange everything, don't worry. Marlene is also here with me. She is in a very bad mood. Baron Delt is dead and Mrs. Carlo is missing. I also sent people to look for her, but she couldn't find her. The situation in the royal capital is a bit complicated. I told my grandfather about your situation, and he also knew that you handed over that green vine ball to His Majesty, and then joined a secret agency. His suggestion is that you can just go in and avoid the current complicated situation in the capital. But it's best to keep a low profile. Although you are strong, there are too many strong people in the capital now. Be careful. Garen looked at the last sentence emphatically. Be careful. Obviously Bailan knows a lot more inside information than he does because of her family relationship. Putting down the envelope, he kneaded the letter paper into countless white powder with both hands, twisted it into a ball, and threw it into the trash can not far away. He had already written down the address above. Bai Ian's grandfather is one of the two most powerful people in the capital. Apart from His Majesty, they are the two of them. These two people were originally great local nobles, both holding the title of Grand Duke. But after the fall of the place, they came to the royal capital with a lot of strength and became the new power dividers. Such a Grand Duke is no better than the city Lord Duke like Titan City. This is the top strength of a big country. It is a great nobleman with a heritage of nearly 1,000 years. It has a strong background and amazing strength. There will definitely be no shortage of Type 3 totem masters, otherwise it would be impossible to reach the royal capital with a large group of people. There are definitely spiritual totem masters, and there is probably more than one. These top nobles form part of the huge power of the entire royal capital. Countless nobles, large and small, form the huge strength of the entire Kuwaitan. As Bai Ian's grandfather, what he said should not be false. After all, the other party had no reason to deceive him. It seems that the strength I showed in the manor has spread to the royal capital. Garen noticed this. He showed the strength of Type 3 spiritual light in the manor, overwhelming the Baker Stone Eyes and the Black Sky Society. This news should have come from the mouths of Endalu, Cousin Hathaway, and those who fled back to the royal capital. And the two old professors, Bar and Bafia, should also be one of the message delivery points. I'll go out for a while. You can prepare dinner for yourself. You don't have to prepare it for me. Garen thought for a while, stood up and ordered. I'll prepare the carriage for you. Lala ran out quickly. Galen brought the required documents. There is also the certificate of appointment issued by His Majesty the Emperor, packaged together in a black document. After walking out of the gate of the manor inside the cliff, a black four-wheeled carriage was parked in the driveway outside. The carriage had very large wheels, and the driver was a middle-aged man with a mustache wearing a black dress. He took off his hat and saluted Galen. I am Josephine, your new coachman. Garen nodded and got into the carriage. To Welsbig. Okay, please sit tight. The coachman Josephine responded, waving his riding whip and making a sound. Two strong mutated black horses immediately started to exert their strength. These two horses were brought all the way from the manor by Garen. Their strength and endurance were amazing, and they were considered to be good breeds of mutated horses. Your horse is so powerful, the coachman praised. There are few mutant horses that are so powerful. Oh, Garen smiled. Aren't all mutant horses excellent? Of course not. Mutated creatures also have many bad mutations. Some horses have mutated and are not as strong as before, the coachman replied with a smile. It's easy to be your coachman. It's easy to take care of the two horses and feed the meat for several days. The salary is also high, and you don't go out once for 10 days and a half. Garen smiled and stopped talking. The talkative Josephine coachman wanted to say something, but suddenly remembered some rumors about this master, hesitated, and decided to keep silent. As the car drove uphill, carriages passed by from time to time. As they passed by, the faint sound of a woman sobbing could still be heard. Garen knew in his heart that such a situation should not be uncommon. The royal capital was now filled with nobles who had fled from various places. Many of them had lost their relatives, parents, children, brothers, and sisters during their escape. Almost every household has experienced attrition. There are many people like Vindman who cannot even hold funerals and have no bones left. The carriage moved forward quickly, and sparse small buildings gradually appeared on both sides of the white road. Black double and three-story buildings abounded. I saw people coming in and out of the door from time to time. Garin turned sideways and looked out the window. He saw a double-story building passing by. The second-floor window was open, and a young girl wearing a white headscarf was playing with a pot of purple flowers on the window sill. There was noisy yelling and yelling downstairs, and several men were struggling with each other, pushing and shouting. The carriage passed the small building, then an empty black cemetery. The cemetery is full of dense white tombstones. In front of two new tombs, funeral ceremonies are being held. Priests in white robes and family members in black stand together. The wailing sounds of the family members can be clearly heard. Beyond the cemetery, there is a connected three-story building, like a large commercial block with densely packed houses. Most of the shops were closed, but occasionally a few shops were open. There was a long queue at the door, with people in shabby clothes lining up expectantly. There were also women holding children in their arms, young men with sallow faces and skinny muscles, and a rickety old man with gray hair. When Garen's carriage passed by, some people in the team looked this way, but then they showed awe and quickly lowered their heads. Call. A few bangs. Suddenly the carriage brakes suddenly. The driver Josephine shouted loudly from the front. The carriage shook completely and stopped. Damn it! Which coachman are you from? Didn't you see us coming from the right? An arrogant voice came from the front. Obviously it was you who rushed here without looking at the road, Josephine shouted dissatisfied. You still talk back. A small broken carriage actually dared to ram into Viscount Dunskin's car. Believe me or not. Bob. Shut up. A calm male voice came from the other party's carriage. The coachman stopped talking immediately, turned around and smiled a little, then turned back and glared at Josephine fiercely. Garin opened the curtain and saw a white carriage opposite also opened the curtain, and the man inside looked over. The other person looked very polite, but his eyes were very sharp. Seeing the black full-body armor on Garin's body, a trace of vigilance and fear flashed in the other's blue eyes. The two smiled politely at each other, lowered the curtains, and the coachmen on both sides drove their carriages past each other. Putting down the car curtain, Garin touched the black armor on his body. It seems that the skin of this secret agency is very intimidating. He became more and more looking forward to this one of the three legendary agencies. By joining this powerful organization, you may be able to gain access to some of the deep secrets of this world. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 365. These guys don't know that you are a lord and noble, the coachman Josephine said with a smile. This is much more valuable than those ordinary aristocratic lords who only have empty titles. Don't talk nonsense, Garin scolded lightly. In this current situation, there should be many lords and nobles who have lost their territories and cannot support their families, right? This is true. Josephine put away her smile. This is the case for a family I once worked for. They didn't purchase much property in the royal capital, and the wealth they brought was lost on the way. They couldn't last more than a few days after coming here. Just disband us, and the family fortune that has lasted for hundreds of years will decline like this, alas. Galen stopped speaking and just listened to what Josephine said. From this coachman who was employed by many nobles, he did hear a lot of unknown gossip. The coachmen often communicate with each other. When everyone gets together to brag, and calculation shows that the number of powerful territorial nobles in the entire royal capital does not exceed 400. Compared with the huge group of tens of thousands of nobles, this is simply a drop in the ocean. Originally, Josephine was also depressed because of being fired. Unexpectedly, when she was hired by Lala, her right to speak among the coachmen suddenly changed. Although Mr. Garen's reputation is not very good, he is indeed a superior noble, and it is said that he has close relationships with many powerful nobles. The carriage passed through the black streets, circled half a circle around the royal palace, and finally left the royal capital. After passing through a checkpoint, there was a large yellow-green grassland in front of it. The grass is yellow and green, dotted with some red fruit bushes. This grassland is located at the very back of the black buildings in the royal capital, and is surrounded by a large circle of black stone walls, forming a huge oval. After the carriage drove on the grass for a while, it gradually became able to see a huge lake in the center. That's Wells Lake, which is the source of water supply for the entire royal capital. In addition to the Wellsburg you're going to, the Royal Capital Water Supply Bureau is also here. The coachman Josephine didn't seem to be unfamiliar with this place. On the straight driveway, there were also some single-person open carriages heading towards Wellsburg. From time to time, groups of fast horse riders passed by the Garonne carriages, coming and going, but not a few pedestrians were seen walking. The traffic of carriages and horses on the driveway gradually increased, and the carriages gradually slowed down. About 10 minutes later, finally, a small grey-white stone castle appeared in front. The small castle is built on the water by the lake. Only an arched stone bridge at the entrance connects to the shore and is set up on the grass. The walls of the small castle seemed to be made of gravel. It looked like a cobblestone floor, uneven and made of fine stones. There are 4 spears on the top, arranged in 4 points of a square. There is also a blackened chimney on the sloping roof in the middle. Looking from afar, Garin saw that the entire castle was not that big, no more than a 2-story residential building. There was a black street lamp standing on the stone arch bridge at the entrance. 2 people were standing on the bridge talking quietly, both wearing the same black skirt and armor as Garin. The carriage drove Galen to the open space on the left side of the stone bridge and stopped. "Here we are, sir." "Well, you go back first, don't wait for me." Garin opened the curtain and got out of the carriage, and walked directly to the stone arch bridge. Pass the 2 people who are chatting and walk along the arch bridge into the entrance of the small castle. After walking through the dark door, there is a living room connected on both sides. The walls are covered with all kinds of weird decorations, most of which are bone ornaments of different shapes. There are white antler-like bones, huge thick thigh bones, and long skulls the size of basketballs, etc. Sitting in front of a counter on the right side of the reception room was a fair-skinned girl wearing glasses and wearing a gray skirt. Seeing Garin walking in, the girl immediately smiled politely. "Hello, are you the Viscount Galen who came to report? We have been notified and your portrait is recorded here. Please show your identification." Galen took out the certificate issued by His Majesty the Emperor, a hard certificate with gold patterns. The fair-skinned girl took it and checked it carefully, then recorded the key information in a notebook and handed it back to Garin. "Please wear this. Go to the second room on the right and someone will receive you." She handed over a black gold-edged badge with a gold letter Z-shaped pattern inside. Garin followed her instructions, walked into the room on the right, and passed through to the innermost small room. The layout of the small room was similar to that of the hall. The walls were decorated with white bones everywhere. There were 2 men and 1 woman arguing about something. When they heard the footsteps, they stopped talking and fell silent for a while. When Garin walked in, 2 men and women in black skirts glanced at him. The other brown-haired man in black skirts had his fingers in his hair, sitting with his head lowered, his chest rising and falling. Obviously his mood was not stable yet. "Come down." Garin ignored them and walked directly to a depression on the left side of the room. "Wow!" After a muffled sound, the wall immediately opened a passage, revealing a downward sloping tunnel. A long strip of glass is inlaid at the top of the tunnel, guiding light from the outside in, making it feel like a skylight. Garin walked in calmly. "Welcome, welcome. Welcome, Viscount Galen." Terry Jones, a fat man with a bloated body, came up to him with cheerful steps, grabbed Galen's hand and held it hard. "I am Badra, a deputy city governor from the distant Hill Shield, and now the director of the secret royal capital area. Your arrival makes us absolutely ecstatic. With a smile on his face, the fat man pulled Galen forward enthusiastically and walked quickly, introducing the situation here while walking along the tunnel. You just came here and you don't know the situation. The structure of our secret agency is the headquarters, the General Bureau, the branch, the regional office, the special task force. These 5 structures are divided into layers and cover the entire Kuwaitan. Here this is our Kuwaitan General Bureau, which is in charge of 5 sub-bureaus. Each branch manages various regional divisions, and there are many groups under the division. You are the deputy group leader we need most now. The situation is very difficult now. We have lost many team leader level personnel one after another. Although you are only the deputy team leader, as long as the trial mission is completed, you can become the official team leader. We hear, whether it is the headquarters or the General Bureau, the same goes for branch bureaus, including regional division level units, all based on groups. The group at the headquarters is the most powerful, followed by the group at the General Bureau, then the branch, and so on. Fatty explained quickly. If the team at the regional division level cannot solve the matter, it will be reported to the branch, which will review it and dispatch the branch team. If there is still no way, it will be reported to the General Bureau, and then to the headquarters. You now belong to our Kuwaitan General Bureau, the team unit below. The situation is very troublesome now. Reports from various places are difficult to solve. Most of our manpower has been sent out. There are only 10 teams in total, 8 are sent out, 1 is left at the headquarters, and 1 is processing a local mission in the royal capital. I happened to hear that you were coming, and His Majesty the Emperor sent you a greeting in advance. Wait a minute, you said you are just the director of the Wangda district? Since this is the Kuwaitan General Administration, where are the sub-directors here? Where are the general directors? Galen interrupted. I've gone on a mission. The fat man took out a white handkerchief and wiped his sweat. For some reason, this Mr. Garin was completely different from the image shown in the information. According to the information, he was gentle and polite, and loved beautiful women. He was once seduced by Gylasi. Go round and round, like poetry. But the man in front of me looks like a ferocious beast in human form, with fair skin, a really soft complexion, and a faint smile. However, combined with the 3 strange red dots between his eyebrows, it gives people a creepy feeling. It's really weird. It's obviously a gentle smile, but why does it look so scary? The fat man was confused. Now everyone is seriously short of manpower, and something happened that challenged the majesty of the secret agency. The Director General was furious and took the strongest silver team on a mission. It is estimated that it will take a week to come back. Now I am in charge here for the time being. Then what benefits will it bring to me if I join this secret agency? Garin asked the most critical question directly. You have high-level intelligence sharing qualifications within the Royal Alliance, and you have a very generous amount of resources and economic income every month. You are exempt from homicide qualifications, and you can have the right to make decisions on your own for those without titles. You also have the power of compulsory expropriation. In an emergency, you can recruit external non-titled forces to fight against the enemy. If the other party does not comply, it will be a violation of the law and become a wanted person for war crimes. The fat man seemed to be very familiar with this, and he would just open his mouth and throw out all the jingles. The most important thing is that you can enjoy master-level customized totem and repair totem services in any part of the Royal Alliance according to your own level. Of course, you have to pay for it yourself. Tisk, tisk. What a great right! Garin couldn't help but take a breath after hearing this. Although he has killed so many people outside, if he dares to kill people within the Royal Alliance's sphere of influence, he will immediately be surrounded and killed by the top powerhouses in the country. And with this identity, it is obvious that he can kill legally within the alliance. No wonder His Majesty the Emperor is so bitter about this department. With such great power, if he does not firmly control it in his own hands, he may stab himself at any time. To tell you the truth, when I joined this department, it was because of the right to make my own decisions. The fat man gave Garin a wink that every man would understand. When you meet a beautiful girl, you can find any reason and make your own decision, you know. Garin was speechless. At this time, he remembered the reasons why Khautan was destroyed in history. One was that the emperor was assassinated, and the other was that the special departments had too much power and caused too much public anger. It is estimated that the cause is people like the fat man in front of me. Then what do we have to pay? Garin asked again. Obey the command of your superiors. Your superior is Marquis Yaei. He is the deputy director of the General Bureau and manages everyone in the 9-color team. Of course, with your level, you will be devolved to the branch. At the end of the day, you will be the branch director or deputy director. Position. So you can also mobilize some people below the command. As a secret agency, we are responsible for solving all responsibilities within our jurisdiction. Anything involving special areas such as assassination, rebellion, unrest, espionage, etc., is our business. Frontal combat is the responsibility of the state agencies, and those who study logistics, children and the like are the math agencies. To put it simply, we are responsible for everything in the dark. When nothing happens, everyone is leisurely and happy, but when something happens, we have to go out and work hard. I understand, Garin said clearly. The two of them moved forward, turning countless turns, until the light above was a little dim, and the glass pillars on the stone wall could see through, and they could see the blue crystal water above their heads. Finally, the front turned into a small passage, which contained two opposite rooms, with two brass nameplates hanging on each. Garin glanced at the words on the nameplate. One is red and one is orange. He was pulled by the fat man into an underground room on the left. There was a long conference table in the room, with 4 or 5 people sitting sparsely around the table. They were all wearing lighter gray skirts and armor, and each of them had a hood and a low expression. Seeing Garin coming in, these people didn't say anything. They were just doing their own things. 2 women chatted together, and 2 men, one old and one young, were discussing something. Another one simply crossed his legs on the table, pulled down his hood to cover his face, and purred faintly. This is your red team. From today on, they are your team members. If I have anything else to do, I will leave first. You can do it yourself. The fat man said nothing and fled in a hurry. What do you mean I'm doing it myself? Garin hadn't yet figured out the specific situation. Watching the fat man run away through the door, he couldn't help but feel a strange feeling in his heart. He stood at the door and saw a circle of people in the room doing their own thing. No one paid any attention to him. These people occupied all the chairs intentionally or unintentionally, leaving no one for him to sit on. Who knows the situation? Can you tell me what's going on? Garin showed a harmless smile. The old man and the young man who were discussing some issue in the room paused for a moment. The white-haired old man raised his head and glanced at him with squinted eyes. Young man, are you the new team leader here? According to what the fat man said, I am indeed. Garin showed his badge. You should go back and forth from where you came. The old man shook his head. This place is not something that a young boy like you can enter. Garin smiled and didn't say much. Isn't this the group I'm responsible for? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 366. This is the place of the red team, but it is not a place you can be responsible for. A woman who was chatting raised her head and revealed a hint of sarcasm. Everyone sitting here is a Type 3 totem master. Everyone has performed hundreds of tasks before stepping up. Do you understand what hundreds of tasks are? The corners of the woman's mouth curved slightly. Everyone here is a character who has killed at least hundreds of totem masters, and they are all at the same level. She continued. Our secret agency generally has a casualty quota, 1 person per group every month. There are many reserve groups waiting at any time to add people to join us. These people are masters who live in life and death fights every day. Let me say this, you still understand? That's right. If it were me, I wouldn't casually trust a leader who comes down from above. In this case, I'll give up my command. How about we all get along as equals and work together to perform tasks? Garen said. He is very talkative and has a friendly face. That's right. The old man suddenly showed a satisfied expression. My name is... Garen was about to introduce himself. Suddenly he was interrupted by the old man raising his hand. Young man, in a place like this, it's best not to give your real name. Just use your code name. This is an old man's warning. Okay, no need to show off, just introduce yourself. The old man smiled. Laughing, my code name is Old Man. Here are the 2 sisters, Kitten and Fox. The little guy next to me is a hunter, and the last one sleeping is the original deputy leader of our group, Hong Umbrella. Garen nodded. Do you choose your own code names? Of course, you can call me whatever you want. As long as it sounds smooth. The old man nodded. Then let me call you Jadu. Garen replied gently. 9 heads. The old man shook his head and motioned to the child hunter beside him to move aside. Sit down. Before you came, we were discussing a mission that was about to be dispatched. At this moment, the atmosphere suddenly relaxed. The mission supplies are a standard package for each person. You need to get them. You can take care of this later. Now let's discuss the difficulties of this mission in detail. The old man looked like a commander. Garen glanced at the others. The sleeping man also put down his feet and stopped snoring. He was obviously beginning to listen. Everyone was attentive and accustomed to it. It was obviously not like this once or twice. Garen didn't take it too seriously. Anyway, he entered the secret agency just to keep a low profile. The Terry Jones family is in the limelight now and needs to cool down for a while. He didn't want to get into the sight of the people behind Black Sky Club and Daihua Club so early. The Black Prince is about to arrive in the royal capital to meet with His Majesty the Emperor. The security measures are provided by a secret agency, but the Black team, the strongest among the 9 color teams, is dispatched and is currently on a mission. It is none of their business. What they want to do is to clean up the undercurrent of monster clusters in some nearby places. The mission destination point has been listed on the map, and there are more than 10 red dots densely packed on it, all of which need to be resolved within a month, so as not to affect the route progress of the Black Prince and his party. Garen was a little surprised when he heard the old man's arrangement. There was no strategy. Which person is responsible for which red dot? Some have 1, some have 2 or 3. From here you can see the respective strengths. You must know that these red dots are clusters of type 3 monsters, and they were actually divided up by 5 people. Among them, the hunter and the red umbrella have more red dots, 3 for each person and 4 for each person. And they are all stronger red dots. The remaining ones are 1 for you and 2 for me. They are all divided so quickly. Suddenly, the old man realized that there was an extra galleon present. He glanced at the galleon and hesitated. How about one of you? He asked tentatively. Okay. I'll just try it as a novice. A red dot shouldn't be a problem. Garen smiled cheerfully. Be careful. Even if it's just a red dot, there are at least 2 type 3 monsters inside. If you can't handle it, send a signal for help. The old man still showed a kind side. If you can't solve even 1 red dot, you'd better get out of our group as soon as possible. Mao Mao curled his lips disdainfully. It's okay, I'm going to bed first. Hong Xian yawned, stood up and left the room. The things will be delivered to my room later. I'll bother you later. The supply package was delivered to our room. It's on the map and it's easy to find. The old man also stood up and patted Garen on the shoulder. It's time to play your role. Kitty walked past Garen and patted him on the shoulder as well. The other woman, Fox, didn't say anything and followed him out. The child hunter smiled at Garen and was the last one to walk out of the room. Garen stood speechless in the room, looking at the empty tables and chairs. Are you treating me as an errand boy? He shook his head. He could see that all of these people were executioners covered in the smell of blood. Their bodies were lingering with the faint fishy smell that he was most familiar with. And it was much thicker than what was on him. In his previous life, his secret martial arts killed more ordinary secret martial artists. In fact, he was still considered an ordinary person, just a little more powerful. And these people only talked about killing totem masters of the same level, not those of different levels, or ordinary people. Obviously, that number is higher. It is indeed the general bureau of a country. There are 10 groups in total, and the weakest one is so strong. Garen sighed in his heart. He didn't know what His Majesty the Emperor meant by putting him into this group, but since the secret agency has high level of intelligence sharing qualifications, you should be able to find some special deep world intelligence. He wrote down the map and followed him out of the room. Just as he was walking towards the ground, he met a woman in grey pushing a cart, claiming to be delivering supply packages. Garen gave her a little tip and asked her to help deliver to several rooms on the map. This woman obviously delivers frequently and is very familiar with these points. I usually don't have enough money to get the gifts, but this time there were actually benefits, so I happily accepted them. Garen roughly asked about the layout of this place, and it turned out to be a hollow building built under the lake. He inquired about the location of the archives and database, and was going to check first to see if there was any information he wanted. Regarding his red group, although he was a little dissatisfied with the bad attitude of this group of people, but considering that this was human nature, he didn't take it to heart. What he needs more now is how to eliminate the hidden dangers of the crystal deduction device. Although this thing is no longer the biggest reliance for him, it is indeed not generally useful. He didn't want to give up just like that. In addition, the biggest purpose is actually to find out what secrets there are between this world and the previous world. In 1 or 2 years, Khautan may collapse. During this period, Galen plans to completely settle his cousin Hathaway and the others, as well as Gerda's side, Bailan, and others. Arranging all these relatives and friends who are good to Ahashia one by one can be regarded as a compensation for occupying Ahashia's body. Then focus all your energy on finding the secrets between the worlds. In a distant area, a black spire towers into the clouds, like a Tower of Babel, with no end in sight. Below the spire, a black mist emerged out of thin air and quickly condensed into a tall human figure in black armor. The human figure raised his head and looked at the spire in front of him. Large grey clouds circled around the tower, forming a huge vortex of clouds. There was a constant sound of strong whistling wind coming down from the sky. "Heiji, are you okay?" a deep male voice came from inside the minaret. It seemed as if the entire tower was echoing the sound. The armored figure stood still, just lowering its head in a respectful gesture. The people from Daiwa Club have made new moves. They seem to be cultivating a man named Baker Stone Eyes. I know, don't pay attention to him. Our opponent is the Royal Alliance. The 3 major agencies are very troublesome. The president is still sleeping. The closer to the awakening period, the more careful you have to be. Those 3 old guys are not simple characters. As long as this, if the deputy president successfully awakens, our strength will hopefully surpass theirs. Instead of relying on monsters to temporarily contain them now. The man's explanation came from inside the steeple. So where is Marshal Shinaun? We have detected a problem with the General Crystal Deducer sent over. Send the information and let him handle it on his own. We at Mahakala are only responsible for monitoring, and the specific operations are none of our business, Spire replied. I'm afraid that the general in charge of Kuwaitan can't get in touch now, which will affect the matter, Haji replied. The plan is Marshal Shinaun's plan, not ours. Well, that's it for today. The steeple went silent and stopped making any sound. The black armored figure also turned into a ball of black mist and disappeared completely. Somewhere in the huge ruins of Xenia, a black unicorn was slowly walking among the ruins. The unicorn was carrying a purple-haired woman wearing a one-eyed patch. There was a red crystal ball suspended in her hand. The face was faintly illuminated by a faint red light. Medea, can you contact Jace? The voice of Andorra, another elemental general, came from the crystal ball. What's wrong? Is there something urgent? Medea gently combed her long hair with one hand. There is news from Mahakala that Jace's deduction device is broken. The Marshal means that it may be too late to change it now. Jace is responsible for everything in Kuwaitan. Only you have seen Jace, his true identity and face. The Marshal asked you to go there in person. Anyway, you still have a general here, so you don't have to worry about anything happening. That guy hasn't contacted the generals over there yet, and I thought he was missing. Andorra explained calmly. Let me try to contact him first, Medea said impatiently. It's too annoying to travel so far. I'll ask the general over there to contact him. Okay. Information from the intelligence department says that he is already in the capital of Kuwaitan. Isn't there already a general there? There are also generals from the elite department there. Let them see what's going on. I'm not familiar with them. Okay, I'll contact you here. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 367. All the information from the Archives Bureau was moved to the Royal Secret Bureau. Garin, who came out of Welsbog, was a little disappointed. The Secret Bureau was not located here, but at the other end of the royal capital, which required a half-hour walk. He took a carriage directly back to his residence. More than 10 minutes later, the car quickly arrived at Blue Bay Manor. Sitting in the carriage, Garin was about to get off when he saw two tall men in red cloaks standing at the door of his manor. The two of them were quietly asking something with Lala. His eyes narrowed slightly. Keep going, he told the coachman. The coachman glanced at Garin in confusion, and continued to move forward without asking any further questions. Garin pretended to be a passing carriage and watched the two people through the window until they asked and left, mounted two fast horses and completely disappeared into the driveway where they came from. He then ordered the coachman to turn the horse's head and return to the gate of his manor. After jumping off the carriage and paying the fare, Garin walked towards Lala in front of the door. Who were those two people just now? The bodyguard who claims to be the princess came to see you for something, Sir. Lara replied softly, with a look of confusion on her face. They said that if you come back, please contact them directly. You know the contact information. Garin's heart sank slightly. I understand, okay, go and do your work. Yes, although Lala was puzzled, she still noticed Garin's displeasure and quickly turned around and left. Garin strode into his manor, passed through the reception room, then the central open-air garden, and walked directly into the main living room on the inside. Without stopping at all, he walked into his bedroom, pulled out a black box from the corner of the wall, and opened the lock with the key on his body. With a snap, the big black metal lock popped open, and the lid of the box also popped up. Reveal what's inside. In the middle of the black silk, there was a light red crystal deduction device. This light red crystal ball is flickering with a light red halo. A line of text is displayed above. There are 5 contact requests. Do you want to connect? Garin took out the crystal deduction device and let it float in his hand. Click on the contact request form, which contains requests from 2 generals and 3 lieutenant generals. The lineup is luxurious. He clicked on a contact request from a general with an unfamiliar name. A light red vortex suddenly appeared in the crystal ball, spinning continuously. Jace? When did you change your name? Galen. This name can't be. A charming female voice came from across the crystal ball. Forget it, let's not talk about it for now. Medea's contact with you has not been successful. Is your inferring machine broken? Didn't we go to Mahakala to repair it last time? You always said before that your inferring machine often had problems. Garen hesitated, deliberately suppressing his voice and turning it into a hoarse state. Are you and Lu? This was the name of the general displayed. There was silence on the other side. No. You're not Jace. Jace would never talk to me like this. Damn it. Who are you? Enlu burst out suddenly, his voice filled with urgency and coldness. I'm Jess, I just have a bad voice. Needless to say, who are you? How dare you pretend to be General Jace and sneak into our Black Sky Society military headquarters? How do you know the secret language? Enlu's voice suddenly lost the charming and lazy tone before, and in an instant became freezing cold. Forget it, there's no point in asking these questions now. Let me see your silver totem. A humanoid shape with 3 heads of spiritual light. 3 heads of spiritual light totem. Not bad, boy. Enlu's tone suddenly changed. Soft. You are actually able to cultivate a 3-headed spiritual light totem. This should be your most important strength. Tisk tisk, with the name Garen, are you the young Viscount of the Terry Jones family? Garen's heart skipped a beat. The other party's acumen and reaction speed are obviously very fast. Now that you know everything, what are you going to do now? Enlu suddenly smiled coquettishly. Do you know that as soon as I report it, all your totems will be stripped away? The 3-headed spiritual light totems you have worked so hard to cultivate will all become the property of others. And you yourself will also be the superiors took action to kill them. What exactly do you want? Garen's expression remained unchanged, and he returned to his original voice in a low voice. There was silence from the other side, and then there was another chuckle. Now that the deduction device is in your hands, it seems that Jace is probably gone. I really don't know how you cultivated it. Even I only have 2 spiritual totems. It's not difficult to get a good thug. How to use it? Woolen cloth. Well, I have an important thing to do. You have to arrive at Vivian Garden in the north of the capital within 10 minutes. I'll wait for you on the bench by the roadside there. Garen put away the crystal ball expressionlessly, rushed out the door without saying a word, mounted a batch of emergency mutant horses, and rushed directly towards the royal capital. In just 9 minutes, Garen hurried to the deserted Vivian Garden to the north. The deserted garden was quiet, with no one around. Most of the trees inside were withered, and only a few white jade statues still stood in the middle. The circular garden is small and surrounded by a circular road with benches along the road. Garen circled around and didn't see anyone there. I'm here, where are you? He walked to a deserted corner, took out the crystal ball and asked directly. The situation has changed. In 3 minutes, you can get to the Bernoulli Stone Bridge in the Western Ring Road. Someone will tell you what to do when you get to the bridge, Enlu replied lazily. Garen narrowed his eyes. Are you kidding me? The Bernoulli Stone Bridge is 5 kilometers away from here. Totems are not allowed in the royal capital. How do you want me to get there? It's up to you whether you go or not. 3 minutes. Remember, you only have 3 minutes. If you are late, I will report your matter to my superiors. By then, your silver totem and the girl you have silvered will all be gone. You make your own choice, Enlu sneered. Garen's expression remained unchanged, and he rushed towards the West Ring Road. Fortunately, there was no traffic jam on the streets of Wangdu. I ran all the way to the Bernoulli Stone Bridge. There were only a few homeless people sleeping at the end of the bridge, and there was no suspicious person at all. Garen looked at the bridges on both sides, but there was no sign. Okay, you're barely qualified. Now, Let me think about it. Have you seen the beggar sleeping under the sculpture on the left? Go up and hug her and say loudly that she is your long-lost relative and you want to take her with you. Go back. Remember to have a lively expression, and Lu yawned from the opposite side. Are you kidding me? Galen's face darkened, and he glanced at the beggar. Not only was he covered in abscesses, but he also exuded a foul odor. His whole body was edematous, his hair was disheveled, and there was saliva at the corner of his mouth. A delirious fool. I was just playing tricks on you, and you just found out, and Lu suddenly smiled sweetly. It's almost time. The little girl you have in the manor has been taken away by my people. Think about it, what if your little girl the maid was discovered by the royal family to be a silver totem? Tisk tisk, I really don't know what to do. The royal family will definitely regard you as a traitor. What should I do? It's so distressing. But, as long as you listen to me enough, I won't reveal anything as long as you are good enough. Okay, just press my button now. I found you. Garen suddenly showed a strange smile and licked his lips. You. With a loud bang, the crystal deducer suddenly exploded and turned into a piece of red dust. And Lu's voice stopped suddenly. Garen withdrew his right hand and sat on the horse, looking somewhere to the left of the stone bridge. Laugh. The figure disappeared instantly. Far away from the Bernoulli stone bridge, in a minaret building by the moat, a woman in a black dress put down the crystal ball with an ugly face. The royal family's unique premonition made her feel that a huge and terrifying threat was approaching crazily. There was an uneasy look on her delicate face. Wait. Your Highness, do you have any orders? A huge brass-colored humanoid armor knelt on one knee and asked respectfully. Move to the resting point immediately, it's no longer safe here. I always feel a little frightened. The woman in the black dress covered her chest, her face was extremely pale. In the crystal deduction device, the man's voice seemed to still be echoing in his ears. Find me? So what if you can find me? I am protected by the royal knights. What can you, a totem master who even has a silver totem out of town, do? The woman in the black dress felt a little more at ease. Seems to be comforting himself. Let's go. Get out of here right now. She stood up, picked up her handbag and hurried to the downward spiral staircase. Unknowingly, she held the tower and looked down. This look made her look horrified for a moment. At the bottom of the tower, a tall man in black was looking up at her and grinning. His white teeth gave people an indescribable sinister feeling. Surprisingly, it was the Jace I saw on the Bernoulli bridge just now. Let's go. Quickly, the woman in the black skirt didn't know why, but she felt suddenly panicked. She screamed loudly, with a trace of panic in her eyes that she didn't even know she was aware of. As members of the Kuwaitan royal family, they all have an enviable special ability. This ability is also the key to turning danger into danger many times and avoiding danger. This is both the premonition ability of the Kuwaitan royal family. In other words, it is a talent, a special function. Each member of the royal family had varying degrees of premonition of danger. But now, this ability has become a key factor in making women lose their cool. Enter is not allowed in the royal palace. Two heavily armored guards crossed their halberds and blocked Garen's path. The two people blocked the entrance to the spire, staring at Garen eagerly. Didn't your Highness Princess invite me here? Garen stood under the tower and heard clearly the conversation at the top of the tower just now. What are you doing with such an ignorant subordinate? A gentle smile appeared on his face. Crack. The upper bodies of the two guards suddenly disappeared, as if they had been bitten off by some invisible giant mouth. Even the blood didn't have time to spurt out, leaving only the lower bodies standing in place. Blood slowly slid to the ground along the remaining armor. Garen walked into the white spire with a cheerful smile. The two corpses behind him fell to the ground with a clang. Suddenly, there were horrified screams from passers-by outside. Protect your Highness, the footsteps of groups of heavily armored guards gathered towards the side. Waves of powerful totem power were activated behind Garen, as numerous second-type totem masters rushed in from the entrance of the tower. Their bodies shone with totem lights of different colors. The narrow stairs in the tower cannot accommodate large totem beasts at all, and those who come in are small totems with special abilities. As soon as Garen stepped onto the first step, he felt like he was becoming sluggish. There was a faint invisible force field affecting him, slowing him down. Slow stacking. An old man with a gray beard came out from the top of the stairs, staring at him coldly. "How dare you kill the guards of the royal knights and disturb the rest of the third princess? You really deserve death." Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 368. There was a red crow on the old man's shoulder, and his black jewel-like eyes stared at Garen eerily. Garen felt this power in a novel way, raised his head and smiled at the old man. Crack. Another invisible big mouth bit hard. The gray-bearded old man jumped back quickly, with a hint of sarcasm on his face. "Silent, this ability is really powerful, but you shouldn't expose him in advance." He glanced at the royal knights pouring in behind Garen and waved his hand. "You all stay away and don't interfere with my slow force field. I'll take care of it here." Crack. Before he finished speaking, another huge mouth bit him hard. The old man's expression changed drastically, and he shook out a spell chain with his right hand, activating a red light on it before the red light could take effect. His waist snapped into two pieces, and his upper body disappeared instantly. Together with the red crow, it was bitten and swallowed by the invisible giant mouth. Puff. The lower body fell directly to the ground. Garen moved his body. "The slowness field is really useful. It can barely affect even a body as powerful as mine." He continued walking up. "It seems slow, but the speed is actually extremely fast. Protect Her Royal Highness the Princess. Swear to protect His Highness to the death." The royal knights rushed forward one after another. They activated various abilities, and they also had the same sluggishness, spontaneous combustion of flames, self-acceleration, local enlargement, etc., but all the totem powers could not affect Galleon. Footsteps. The totem light around him blocked all ability attacks. The invisible giant mouths directly bit the royal knights chasing behind them into two pieces. He doesn't like to eat them all. Although the lizard dragon has this ability, eating the whole person means that eating humans is not just killing people. This feeling is not what he wants. Moreover, the lower body of a person often contains a lot of dirt, so Garen deliberately avoided this part. Woo! Suddenly, a piercing siren sounded over the royal capital outside. It was a piercing alarm that would only sound in the event of an emergency external attack. Garen rushed up to the steeple in a few steps. There was no one at the top of the tower at the exit. There was nothing. Garen stood at the top of the stairs, looked around, and suddenly smiled. The invisible giant mouth bit forward instantly. Crack. The surrounding scene suddenly rippled like water ripples. The third Princess Anlu hurriedly walked onto the back of the huge blue bird. The top of the tower behind him was wrapped in a huge bloody flesh ball. The flesh ball was constantly squirming, and an old woman with a wrinkled face was suspended beside it. Crack. Weird gnawing and chewing sounds came from inside the meatball. With every gnawing sound and twitching sound, the old woman's complexion became paler, and her originally rosy face became more and more miserable. "Go quickly. Your Highness," she shouted loudly. "I can't last much longer." Gran Malina, Enlu looked back at the old woman, with a look of struggle on his face. "Walk." Anlu gritted his teeth and stepped on the huge blue bird under his feet. The giant bird immediately flapped its wings and flew into the distance. She turned back and took a deep look at the meatball, as if she could see the galleons inside it through the meatball. "I will definitely avenge this. Gallon Terry Jones," She gritted her teeth, her eyes full of hatred. Just wait to be hunted down by people on both sides. I will repay your kindness to everyone related to you. It's a pity that you don't have this chance. Suddenly a calm voice came to her ears. Anne's expression changed drastically, and he jumped off the blue bird without thinking. Just jumped out of the bird's back. The huge meatball at the top of the tower exploded immediately, and an invisible mouth flew out, biting the blue bird in mid-air. Blue electricity bloomed from the blue bird's body, fighting against each other with Dika. It raised its head and let out a shrill scream. A large amount of turquoise current covered the surface of the big mouth, finally completely revealing its outline. This big mouth is actually a huge head that is as long and slender as a lizard, just a part of it. The huge lizard head has a snake-like long neck, extending back into the unknown void, as if it is a powerful creature from another time and space, emerging from nowhere. Judging from the proportions of this lizard's head alone, this monster's whole body is at least more than 20 meters in length. Otherwise, it would be impossible to reach out and bite the blue bird that had already flown more than 10 meters. Ho! Suddenly, a bolt of purple lightning shot out from below, striking the giant lizard's head. The purple lightning shot out like a spear, accurately piercing the chin of the lizard dragon head, and then pierced through the top of the skull. Ouch! The lizard dragon let out a scream and immediately let go. But the entire back half of the blue bird's body was now covered in blood and flesh, and with a mournful cry, it fell heavily from the air. With a scoff, a beam of silver light shot back to Anlu's finger ring. The purple lightning spear was shot by Wade, Anlu's personal guard, with all his strength. Purple wings like roots sprouted from his back, constantly twisting and rhythmically moving toward both sides, like two dense tree roots. Now let me see how you will do it. Wade looked up at the top of the tower, with a cold and tough expression on his face. This lightning spear is the greatest power that he has gathered all his strength into. When a gun is fired, even the spiritual totem cannot withstand it. If the vital part is hit, the result will be nothing but ashes. This is also the fundamental reason why he can become the third princess's personal guard and guardian knight. This is his thunder god spear, which has killed many top masters who are good at fighting on the battlefield in the past. The lizard dragon did indeed go completely silent and never appeared again. Is he dead? Wade scanned the top of the tower vigilantly, but did not find anything suspicious. Get out of there, the third Princess Anlu's shout came from far behind. Wade was a little confused, but he still backed away as he was told. Crack! A huge pulling force suddenly appeared in the air in front of him, as if it was being swallowed by something. Wade's expression changed. Wade! He heard the urgent cry of the third princess, and then, there was no more, his vision went dark, and he fell into endless darkness. Garen's figure slowly landed where Wade was standing, and opened his huge mouth to swallow Wade completely. Tisk, tisk, it's so powerful. That blow just now killed one of my heads, Garen said in admiration. It is a pity that the eight-headed dragon has extremely strong regeneration ability, and the dragon head that was killed quickly grew back, and the guards it swallowed before served as nourishment for regeneration. If all the heads of the eight-headed dragon cannot be defeated at the same time, then the eight-headed dragon cannot be defeated at all. The silent devouring ability, the terrifying huge strength, the powerful resistance constitution, and the abnormal ability of life bite to replenish one's own vitality. This behemoth that has evolved to its peak is simply the most powerful war machine. He looked at Anlu, whose face was pale in the distance. The third princess kept walking backwards, looking panicked. She possessed great power, but she was just a little girl at this time. He has a powerful totem but doesn't know how to use it, and he doesn't have the courage to fight. This is the current situation of the royal family. It has the strength to fight, but does not have the courage to match it. It's really sad. Garen shook his head slightly. Aren't you a general of the elements? Where's your strength? Where's your totem? These subordinates who are desperately protecting you are actually much weaker than you. But they all have no chance of facing strong enemies. The courage to not back down, how about you? Anlu bit her lip. She had indeed never left the royal capital a few times. The only few battles she had were fought under the protection of everyone, and her actual combat experience was extremely poor. She looked at the mess around her. Her strength was almost gone. The body parts of the guards were everywhere. In less than a minute, such a tragedy was caused. The other party's strength and cruelty are simply outrageous. It's really boring. Garen suddenly lost interest. I thought it would be a hearty battle looking at Princess Anlu, who was already frightened. He moves with one hand. A huge mouth bit Enlu hard and picked him up. Ah! Enlu screamed, rolled his eyes, and fainted from fright. Garen glanced at the large shadows flying rapidly in the sky in the distance. It was the masters of the Royal Capital Guard who were gathering quickly. It only took a little more than a minute, so the response was quite fast. After a whistle, he and Enlu disappeared at the same time, and could only vaguely see a black shadow running into the streets and alleys and disappearing. The speed is as fast as a ghost. An elemental general has high intelligence value. There is another lesbian who has not been found. It is too early to kill her now. Garen moved quickly this time, wearing a hood from beginning to end, and everyone who saw his face was silenced. The entire operation took no more than 2 minutes. It was so fast and so complete that even Garen himself was extremely satisfied. This operation also tested his current strength in disguise. Among the 3 types of totem masters encountered during the operation, the first old man with a grey beard was eaten directly. Then there was the old woman, who seemed to have some connection with her core totem. When the hallucinated flesh ball was bitten, the old woman was torn into pieces and completely torn off. The last Wade, that electric spear was really powerful, and he was able to defeat one of the 8-headed dragon's heads. Just as a spiritual totem master, he is proud enough. This was also beyond Garen's expectations. I didn't expect that the guardian knight of the third princess could be so powerful. It seems that although the royal family is corrupt, it still has good power. Quickly walking through the streets and alleys, the Garlean's speed is extremely fast, the body is silent, and even the smell of the body is completely restrained. If he hadn't been exposed in advance this time, he wouldn't have wanted to solve the matter so impulsively, but now that the matter had been done, he had to consider all possible consequences. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 369. Dragging the third princess, Garen quickly returned to the bridge without stopping, and rode his horse slowly towards his manor. The third princess was held in the lizard dragon's mouth and remained in a coma. He didn't panic either. Riding a horse from a distance, he saw that the area around the tower was surrounded by a large group of people. Big figures with powerful auras appeared one after another to survey the scene. Galen also pretended to be a passerby and passed by the scene. A red-haired man leading the team, wearing a white cloak, was half crouching at the place where Wade was swallowed to check for traces. 2 guards reported the situation beside him, and a circle of guards in white half-armor stood around him, sealing off the scene. There was also a large circle of onlookers surrounding him, and everyone was talking and buzzing like flies in a pile of smelly meat. Garen rode his horse and slowly passed by the scene. Tisk, tisk. It's so miserable. There's not a single person left alive, he sighed in admiration, pretending to be an ignorant passerby. Who says it's not the case, sir? You don't know. I rushed here as soon as I heard the sound here. Unexpectedly, I just ran over and saw that the murder was over. The murderer didn't see it, but there is blood all over the ground. Tisk tisk. A fat businessman also passed by in a one-man carriage, looking at the scene like Garen. "Aren't you afraid of being implicated?" Garen glanced at this man. "Afraid? Why aren't you afraid?" "But my biggest interest is to watch the excitement. As long as I find a safe location, I don't have to worry about anything." The fat man waved his hand. Garen shook his head and rode slowly past here. Seeing the confusion on the face of the man in white cloak who was surveying the scene, his mood suddenly felt better. Without stopping along the way, Garen returned to his manor. Sure enough, Lala was gone. Carefully avoiding the eyes of the people around him, Shiren walked into the manor, closed the door, lifted the person out of the dragon's mouth, held the third princess in one hand, and closed all the windows with the other. After carefully checking the doors and windows, closed them all. Garen carried the third princess into the underground secret room. When they came face to face, they saw Komodo panting at the entrance of the passage, with a frightened look on his face, clinging to the wall as if to avoid being trapped. He was holding a shovel in his hand. When he heard the footsteps, he was startled. He raised the shovel and smashed it in the direction of Garan. "Smash it after you see it clearly." Garen grabbed the shovel and glared at him coldly. Komodo's eyes suddenly widened. "Oh my god! Oh my god! Master, you are finally back." "Miss Lala has been taken away," Komodo said with a thankful expression. "This guy looks strong on the surface and looks quite big, but he is a person who is terribly afraid of death." "Go aside." Garen pushed him away, carried the unconscious third princess, and strode towards the passage below. When he reached the corner of the second passage, he slapped his palm on the right wall, hitting a palm print depression. Cha-cha-cha. There was a crisp sound behind him, and two black and purple metal walls came down directly from the entrance, blocking and locking the passage. "Master, what are you doing?" Komodo followed Garen in confusion, and he also noticed the woman in Garen's hand. "No one is allowed to leave here before I finish handling the matter." "The same goes for you," Garen replied calmly. Komodo was immediately frightened and did not dare to say any more. The two of them went down quickly, one after the other, and soon came to a small laboratory. Throwing Princess Anlu inside, Garen adjusted the password of the room. There was only one such encrypted room in the entire underground, and it relied on 5 chain roulettes for encryption. Therefore, there are 5 numbers that can be arranged and combined. Setting 5 different numbers respectively can achieve the effect of encrypting the room. Garen adjusted the password and walked in himself. "Komodo, you go and manage those who survived the experiment. Don't disturb me if you have nothing to do." Komodo blinked and suddenly showed an ambiguous expression. "Okay, sir. I won't let anyone disturb you," he promised loudly. Garen didn't bother to pay attention to what he was thinking and closed the door with a bang. The secret room is somewhat like a large tent, with a round spire on top and a cylindrical shape around the middle. The room was filled with pale yellow light, and a huge brazier hung above it as a chandelier. The fiery red flames inside the brazier kept beating, completely turning the ceiling into red and black. Garen reached out and turned the switch on the wall near the door to adjust the fire intensity of the brazier chandelier. In the secret room, 2 black sofas were placed alone in the middle. There was also a reddish-brown cabinet in the corner. There were 9 cabinets in total, 2 of which had the doors open. Garen walked to the sofa and sat down, waiting quietly for Princess Anlu to wake up. At the same time, sort out his current situation. The silence was very thorough. It was surrounded by a royal patrol area. Passers-by might have seen the color of my clothes, but they definitely glanced at me from a distance and couldn't see clearly the style of my clothes. Judging from the reaction of the royal family just now, there should be no find any valid clues. Garen gently touched his stubble, and his long golden hair reflected a mysterious golden red under the fiery red light. The crystal deducer has to be given up. Since the Black Sky Society may seize control of the 3-headed or a fossilized white dragon, instead of taking advantage of them, it is better to let them go free. When Garen mentioned the crystal deducer, he suddenly remembered that the three princesses there should also be a crystal deduction device on him. He stood up directly, walked to Enlu, who was lying on the ground, squatted down and pressed her around, and soon found her crystal deduction device from a small bag on her lower back. Garen didn't even look at it, and just snapped the crystal ball to explode. Broken crystal shards scattered all over the floor. He directly took off all of Enlu's small bag and dumped all the bulging contents on the sofa. Then scrape off the totem storage on Enlu's body. A red scroll, tied with silver silk thread, I don't know what it is for. 2 black crystal ring storage, a small makeup mirror. There are also some finely chopped blue and red gemstones. Finally, there is a flesh-colored glass tube that looks like lipstick, and a flesh-colored viscous liquid can be seen rippling slightly inside. Garen looked at the label on the glass tube with slight curiosity. AI breast enlargement oil, exclusively for the royal family. He unceremoniously put the rings, gems, and scrolls into his pocket. Garen sat back on the sofa and waited quietly. I just killed so many guard totem masters and 3 type 3 totem masters, one of them was even a spiritual being. He didn't count the specific number of galleons carefully. He calmed down and carefully checked the harvested potential points. Power 14, Agile 3.11, Physique 10, Intelligence 2.53, Potential 5528%. Possess the qualification of Silver Lantern Technician. Only 55 potential points, Garen frowned. This may include the remaining potential points. The petrified white dragons continued to hunt for him and accumulated a large number of potential points, which made Garen almost forget that the potential points were hard-earned. It is only because he has a large number of men who are constantly hunting for food that he can continuously accumulate a large amount of potential points. He had killed so many powerful beings this time to get 55 points of potential. The petrified white dragons had previously accumulated so many potential points, totaling more than 400, which they had obtained by killing many monsters. There were so many potential points before, but 55 points is already a lot now, but it just feels a little inconspicuous. Garen laughed at himself, and the more than 400 potential points caught his eye. I looked at my attributes and found that my agility was only 3.11. These attribute points can just be added to the attributes. Garen focused his attention directly on agility, and his potential value plummeted. At the beginning, 1 point of potential increases the attribute agility by 0.1. Soon, after spending nearly 20 potential points, agility was upgraded to 5 attributes. In an instant, the consumption became that it took 20 potential points to improve 1 attribute. When the agility increased to 6 points, Galleon stopped immediately. Looking at the remaining dozen potential points, he shook his head helplessly. Potential points are used up too quickly. He hadn't had time to think about encrypted weapons. Garen thought for a while, and the 3 red dots between his eyebrows suddenly lit up red, and a miniature 8-headed dragon totem appeared behind him. The 9th head on the back of the totem has clearly become much larger. Obviously the change in attributes has assisted its growth to a certain extent, but I don't know when it will grow a 9th head. Garen is looking forward to this very much. The legend of Hydra has been mentioned in both Earth mythology and Secret Martial World mythology. It's just that they are all different. He is very much looking forward to what height the totem that was originally a 2-headed lizard dragon will eventually be promoted to. Reaching the level of agility of 6, he felt that his whole body seemed much lighter, and his body lines became more symmetrical. With every movement of his hands and feet, it was as if the air was automatically split open to make way for him. This feeling is amazing and somewhat fascinating. Garen carefully experienced his own changes and lost track of time for a moment. Well. After being unconscious for an unknown amount of time, Princess Enlu finally woke up from the ground with a frown. Where are we? My head hurts. Vichy. Vichy. Bring me a glass of vitality water. She didn't seem to understand the situation yet. After calling out the name of the maid several times in a row, the pampered princess finally, when she woke up, she glanced at Garin sitting on the sofa. He fiercely protected his chest and shrank towards the corner. You. It's you. What do you want to do? I'm warning you. I am the third princess of the Khautan royal family. As long as I am missing, my father will definitely send the strongest royal paladins to search everywhere. You'd better let go now. I'm going back. I can pretend that nothing happened. Otherwise, you will definitely be cut into pieces. You will be staked. You will be captured and fed to the dogs alive. The poor fellow was so frightened that his face turned pale and frightened. He was actually still threatening Garin loudly. Poor guy. Don't you know your situation yet? Garin stood up and played with the unknown scroll in his hand. Now tell me, what is this scroll in my hand used for? Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 370. Anlu swallowed his saliva and shrank to the corner. Why should I tell you? It seemed that he was acting too weak. She suddenly puffed out her chest. I advise you to let me go as soon as possible, otherwise it will be traced to you, and even I will not be able to hide it. Neither the royal family nor the Black Sky Society can be offended by you. Garin shook his head speechlessly and laughed. Are you really stupid, or are you pretending to be stupid? I have killed so many of you, and you still expect me to let you go? Bang! He kicked Anlu hard on the waist. The golden totem light and the black totem light on his feet collided with each other, sputtering out tiny black and golden light spots. Large light spots scattered on the ground and quickly dissipated. Ah! Anlu screamed loudly. His whole body was kicked against the wall, and the light of the golden totem on his body dimmed a lot. What's it called? Garin pressed her mouth, lifted it up with one hand, and pressed it against the wall, as if it was hanging on the wall. Tell me, what is this thing? Yes, it's a sealing scroll. What sealed is the spear of Thunder God that Wade had accumulated 3 times, and Lu was so panicked that he immediately said it all at once. Tisk, tisk, you don't even dare to use such a powerful item in your hand, and you just watch your most loyal subordinate being killed by me. I finally saw how stupid you are, Garin praised. 3 times the Thunder God's spear, if used properly, can completely injure him slightly and make him fearful. Looking at the waste in front of him, Garin's eyes flashed with a hint of evil. There was no use in living anyway, so he might as well get rid of him. No. Don't kill me. Don't kill me. I don't want to die. I know a huge secret. It's a secret that you are absolutely interested in. Don't kill me. Anlu immediately sensed the possible danger and closed his eyes. Immediately the eyes screamed. Secret. Garin restrained his murderous intent, but was a little surprised by Anlu's sensitivity to danger. Tell me about it. If it's not valuable, you know the consequences. It's the secret about Guyan Duo's secret treasure, and Lu immediately said it impatiently. You will definitely be interested. That is the secret treasure of Guyan Duo. According to legend, every secret treasure has the ability to reach the heaven and the earth. As long as you don't kill me, I will tell you everything I know right away. There are many ancient sounds. Garin's heart was slightly shaken. Although it didn't show anything on the surface, he was extremely shocked inside. In his previous life, he visited the ancient Yinduo ruins many times and heard about this ancient and mysterious civilization many times. He never expected that in this world, he could still hear the legend of this civilization. Are you sure it's the secret treasure of Guyan Duo? He asked in a raised voice. This secret room is completely soundproof, so there is no need to worry about it being transmitted outside. Of course. I'm 100% sure, and Lu replied quickly, It's just what? It's just that this secret treasure was imitated by the powerful men summoned by my father, but it is definitely a peak work that is closest to the ancient Yinduo secret treasure. Believe me. I have seen its power, Anlu quickly added. Garen was vaguely aware that Anlu's words contained a field that he had never touched before, secret treasures. Tell me carefully what the secret treasure is. How are it divided into different levels? Enlu nodded quickly. Ordinary people don't know much about secret treasures. Only top-level people know some secrets in this area. She paused and saw that Garen didn't look impatient. She became a little bolder and got up and squatted down. By the wall. The secret treasure was originally discovered in a ruins by a totemist scholar. It is a mysterious instrument with special abilities. This is the original secret treasure. There were 4 original secret treasures. Now there is one in Arcautan, and another one. One piece is in Shanya, and the other 2 are missing. My father speculates that they must have wandered to Zizhu or the Wandeo Sea. Tell me the important point, Garen urged with a frown. Enlu was so frightened that he trembled and spoke quickly. Secret treasures are divided into 3 levels: initial secret treasures, ultimate secret treasures that are imitated from the original, and ordinary secret treasures that are imitations of the ultimate secret treasures. Generally, most forces have secret treasures, but the number is different, that is, the storage of the totem is the secret treasure technology. The ultimate secret treasure was handed down from the peak era of secret treasures more than 500 years ago, and the number is very small. Now only a few big forces are qualified to imitate. The power is naturally more powerful. For example, the families of the 2 great dukes in the royal capital each have an ultimate secret treasure. Then there is the original secret treasure, also called the ancient Yinduo secret treasure. It is the most powerful instrument in the legend. There are only 2 in Dongzhou. How powerful is it? Garen said lightly. Initially, the 3 levels of ultimate, general, and general are just general evaluations. Because the functions are different, it is difficult to evaluate the power. They all rely on rarity, scope of action, use, etc. for comprehensive ranking. The ranking of secret treasures will actually be very large. The degree is affected by the holder. If a person can give full play to the power of the secret treasure, naturally the ranking and evaluation of the secret treasure will be high. Anlu quickly confessed everything he knew. But in the beginning, he was the absolute strongest, bar none, she added. So where is the original secret treasure of Kuwaitan now? What is its name and what power does it have? Garen asked the key. Enlu hesitated. The original secret treasure of Kuwaitan is called Sisirting, and its ability is absolute protection. It has been worn on his right hand since his father succeeded to the throne. It is powerful. There were once 3 spiritual totem masters who launched the strongest attack on him at the same time. My father was unscathed. Garen's heart was slightly shaken. His Majesty Iwek is just an ordinary person, but he can actually resist 3 spiritual totem masters with this secret treasure. Wait a minute. Your Majesty Avik is not a totem master, right? He suddenly discovered the key to the problem. Enlu nodded with complicated eyes. Yes, my father is just an ordinary person. The most powerful thing about the ancient Yinduo secret treasure is that ordinary people can use it. Garen suddenly fell silent. There was a long silence in the secret room, and neither of them spoke. After a long time, Garen completely accepted this unbelievable fact, and then looked back at Anlu, who was in awe. Then do you know how many masters there are in the Kuwaitan palace? Anlu shook his head. I don't know. Everyone hides very deeply. In the palace or even in the entire royal capital, completely exposing one's power is the stupidest behavior. It will lead to death. So I don't know how many powerful people there are. My father's thoughts are very deep, and I don't know how many secrets he has hidden. Garen sorted out the newly obtained information. Where is the Black Sky Society? Aren't you the elemental general of the Black Sky Society? Why do you want to assassinate Iwek? Doesn't he have absolute protection? It is to get absolute protection. First of all, this ancient Yinduo secret treasure has no attack ability at all. Secondly, it can choose a trusted person who will not be blocked and defended by the power of the secret treasure. This requires a trust ceremony. The trusted person people will also be jointly protected by the power of the secret treasure. Among all the queens and concubines, only the eldest Princess de Lucy is about to gain the complete trust of her father and is preparing to undergo a trust ceremony. De Lucy gave birth to 3 sons for her father. A daughter. She saved extremely heavy losses for her father twice. As long as de Lucy's acceptance ceremony is successful, Iwek's death will come. Anlu's voice deepened unknowingly. It is unimaginable that the internal struggle in the royal family has reached such a cruel point. The biological daughter actually wished her father would die soon. What about you? As a royal princess, why are you willing to join the Black Sky Society? Garen looked at this timid and cold-hearted contradictory woman and couldn't help but ask. Me, Enlu showed a sad smile. She glanced at Garen without any shame, with the desolation of a broken jar in her eyes. In the eyes of outsiders, our 12 princesses are deeply favored by the emperor. In fact, there is a reason for this favor. Garen was silent. He really couldn't imagine that King Avik was such a shameless person secretly. Before that beast gave birth to us, he first selected wives with different temperaments and looks. His real target was not these princesses, but us who were born to them. He is a pervert. My mother was starved to death in the palace by him. The reason is just that she broke a crystal cup. Enlu said everything, but he relaxed a little. He seemed to have let go of a heavy burden and felt a lot more relaxed. Is there anything else you want to ask? Garen looked at this poor woman and said. Okay, everything I want to know is clear. By the way, I imprisoned your maid in Non-Jade Villa. You can find it yourself. Enlu actually guessed that Jia Long would not let her go, so he closed his eyes. Give me a good time. Garen let out a breath and stretched out his right hand like lightning. Laugh. The light of the totem blocked it for a moment, and then was directly pierced, and the fingers accurately pierced Anlu's eyebrows. A stream of plasma spurted out from the back of Anlu's head and splashed on the wall behind him. With a plop, Anlu slipped softly to the ground. Poor woman, poor royal family. Garen shook his head. He was also struck by the dissolute inside story of the royal family. Such a royal family is full of gold and jade, but is surrounded by corruption. Although Iwek pays great attention to his foreign ministers and is like a spring breeze, he is rarely cruel to his relatives internally. And the biggest flaw lies precisely in his own relatives. In the original history, after he ascended the throne, the Kuwaitan Empire reached a new peak and became one of the most powerful countries in Eastern continent, then collapsed. This is probably the main reason. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 371. After looking at Enlu's body, Garen raised his hand and swallowed the body whole with an invisible mouth. This is the best way to destroy corpses and eliminate traces. He turned around and left the secret room with satisfaction. Next, it's time to consider the response of the Black Sky Society. Killing an undercover agent who was thought to be an elemental general was obviously a huge blow to the Black Sky Society's plan. But they probably don't know who killed them specifically. Even if Jace and Anlu's crystal balls were shattered at the same time on the same day, it might make them think that 2 generals were killed at the same time. There is no way to know the specific reaction of the other party, but Garen is not very worried about the other party's revenge. When the royal capital was still the territory of the Royal Alliance, Black Sky Society did not dare to act rashly and act haphazardly. Not to mention that the powerful team of the secret agency is responsible for the security of the royal capital. This is just the secret side. There are also national agencies on the front. The most powerful branch of the Silver Knights of the National Agency is also stationed in the royal capital of Kuwaitan. This powerful and mysterious team only has a small number of members, but every member is an absolute top powerhouse. Together with the secret agency, one in the dark and one in the dark, he is responsible for the high-end defense of the entire royal capital. The last mathematical institution, Galleon, is not very familiar to me, but it is a more mysterious department. What kind of technology is inside, how much strength it has, everything is unclear. The three major agencies each perform their own duties, just like three major countries within a country, each occupying a territory, representing the powerful alliance of great nobles from various countries. They are the most fundamental foundation of the royal alliance. But even he can kill Princess Anlu in a very short time, so it's better to be careful in this regard. In the current royal capital, the three major agencies, Black Sky Society, and members of the royal family are mixed together, and the situation is a bit complicated. I am now in a secret agency, and Black Sky Society should not dare to do anything too blatantly. And they don't know about me. I think there shouldn't be any problem with my identity. I'd better go on a mission to increase my attribute points to the full level and reach the level of a 9-headed dragon. He calmed down and used his hidden strength. Not to mention that the 8-headed dragon on the surface belongs to the 4th type of totem and has extremely powerful abilities, and his body hidden deep in the depths is even stronger. There is no need to worry as much as before. On the contrary, there are two secret treasures mentioned by Enlu. One is absolute protection and stays on the king's finger, which is the ancient Yinduo secret treasure. The other imitation secret treasure is definitely much weaker, but it should be pretty good. After all, the ultimate secret treasure, as a second-level item, is worthy of so many people's efforts to imitate, and its power is naturally not bad. He was indeed a little moved. But when I think about the complicated situation in the capital now, it's best not to get involved until the situation is clear. Forget it, let's hang out in the secret agency for a while first. I'd rather not get involved in the assassination. I'll focus on killing my potential points. Garen made up his mind and didn't think about it anymore. Next, he quickly went to the villa Enlu mentioned and rescued Lala, who was imprisoned there. No more explanation was given to her, and Lala seemed very calm. The girl seemed to be getting calmer and calmer after following Garen along the way. Quietly returning to the manor, Garen returned to his previous regular life. The time for waiting for the travel mission has arrived. Deep in the palace of the royal capital, in a gorgeous white bedroom. The first princess is a slender and indifferent woman with golden curly hair. She is currently wearing a white tight skirt that highlights her perfect waist, and she is standing in front of a huge full-length mirror. Two maids behind her were arranging her cylindrical golden hair curls, which were layered on top of each other and woven into gorgeous cylinders like gold jewelry. A large amount of long golden hair was braided into curls, which bounced from time to time as Princess Delucy's body swayed. "Your Excellency, Master Hungju's deduction device has been destroyed." A maid's lips moved slightly, but her voice was directly sent to the ears of the first princess. She lowered her head and combed her blonde hair, as if she was concentrating on nothing. Delucy narrowed her eyes. "What's going on? Where's Dida? Isn't he guarding Hungju? Dida is dead." Everyone around Hungju was attacked at the White Bird Tower around 10 o'clock this morning. Hungju's whereabouts are unknown, and all the others died. The maid picked up the black hair accessory and put the crown on the princess. Delucy pondered slightly. Hungju's deducer is broken. I just received news that Jace's deducer is also broken. It can't be such a coincidence. Inform Mahakala and find out what's going on. Okay. In the future, don't pass military matters to me. Please pass them directly to Shinayun military headquarters. Be careful of being discovered by that old guy from Vesca. Understood. The Minister of Defense went to inspect the defense line today. The maid blinked and showed a smile. Tens of thousands of kilometers away from the royal capital, in a dark underground cave. The cave walls were covered in a pale silver creeping shimmer, providing a faint glimmer of light in the darkness. Suddenly, the silver on the cave wall squirmed, like viscous liquid dripping down, and several clumps fell down. These silver liquids slowly twisted and soon formed a complete human shape, a clear human shape that seemed to be composed of mercury. There are no facial features, the face is just flat, and everything is condensed into the figure, looking like a silver sculpture. This is a female figure with long shawl hair. She walked slowly to the center of the cave. Dear Lord Shinaun, there is news from Delusi that the crystal deduction devices of two elemental generals broke at the same time. We need to ask people from Mahakala to investigate what happened. She was the only one in the cave, and there was no one, but there was a sound coming from the top of the cave. The silver cave wall actually squirmed and bulged into a huge silver face, a clear face of a man, but there were two black holes at the eyes. I already know about this matter. The people in Mahakala have come to the conclusion that the Kuwaitan side is temporarily left to the elite department Delusi to take charge of the arrangements. Those two people are already dead. How dare someone dare to openly attack me? People will take action. Anya, who are the nearest generals in the royal capital? There is Schindler, who is in charge of the Quetta district, and Ariel, who is currently entangled with the national organization Silver Knights. Together with Delusi, this is the entire existing force of Quetta. The Silver Woman answered respectfully. In order to encircle and suppress the blood tower of the mathematical institution, our losses this time were too serious. 3 generals died from exhaustion. But the situation in Enid has been completely stabilized. Humph. If it weren't for this guy from the blood tower, I couldn't separate myself at a critical moment. The situation this time is very complicated. Anlu has no ability to resist at all. Jace had already been in Titan City. She just disappeared, and her deduction device has been used by outsiders. Now on the side of Mahakala, our Shinaun military department has become a complete laughing stock. I don't know that my general's deduction device has been used by outsiders for so long. The silver-faced voice became increasingly gloomy. But to be able to kill Anlu without any injuries, at least he has the strength of type 4 or higher than the spiritual light level. You let me go over and lead Schindler and Ariel. You don't need to return that thing for the time being. Just go and kill it. The guy pretending to be Jess. I allow her to mobilize all the unplanned forces around her. In addition, Mahakala will pass you some information on the characteristics of past murderers. I will convey your meaning immediately. The Silver Woman bowed slightly and melted into a puddle of silver liquid. A few days later, the royal capital of Kuwaitan. Behind the royal capital, next to the clock tower, the tallest building, is a gray-black rock cliff. The cliff is covered with large and dense green woods. From a distance, it looks like a large patch of moss covering the top of the cliff. In the middle of these dense woods, on the edge of a small clear lake, stood several figures in black. Among them were old people, children, 2 young girls, and 2 young men. 6 people in total. The golden midday sun shines down from above the trees, reflecting the real golden water light on the lake, making it slightly dazzling. These 6 people wore uniform black skirts and armor with hoods. Their faces could not be seen clearly, but they only revealed different figures and a little bit of skin. Have you brought everything? The old man asked in a low voice. The place we are going to this time is the only way for the Black Prince to pass. At the same time, in addition to this mission, we also have a new mission that needs to be solved. 9 heads, please tell me. A well-proportioned young man nodded. It was Garen with a gentle smile on his face. A trace of his long blonde hair peeked out from the hood, and his face was completely hidden in the shadow of the hood. Like everyone else, everyone's face seemed a little blurry and distorted, as if it was a special effect of the armor. Garen cleared his throat. Yesterday there was another new news from above, from the deputy director. Around our mission area, a superior noble sent a distress signal, hoping that we could go to rescue him, as long as we clear out the cluster of monsters around him. It's a high-ranking noble again. It's really troublesome. Mao Mao, one of the two women, pouted boredly. Every time I go on a mission, I get rescued by the way. We really think we are free labor. Anyway, it's just a way. We will go straight to the destination and then come back directly. We don't need to delay any time. There are only two of us. Garen smiled. I don't care. Hong San crossed his arms and was still yawning. I am the same as brother Hongsan. The child has always followed Hongsan. As for foxes, they generally don't talk. Then it's settled. The old man took out the map and unfolded it. The finger points to a newly marked red dot. Remember this place, and just clean up the monster cluster there when you go there. Leave this to the children. Is everyone okay with it? It doesn't matter, the kid just needs a mission point. It's okay to give it to him, Mao Mao said in a rare good tone. The others had no objection either. Thank you, brothers and sisters. The child smiled and thanked. Garen glanced at the child curiously. This little guy, who is only half his height, probably no more than 13 or 14 years old, is actually so popular in the team. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 372. I stayed in the manor for several days and didn't receive any movement. It was finally time to go on a mission. Under the arrangement of the old man, all the members of the red team of the secret organization decided to gather at the back of the capital, close to the tallest building, the clock tower. Here is a cliff with a green forest and a small lake on it. Okay, let's go down. The old man nodded and took the lead towards the outside of the woods. The others followed suit. Garen followed the team at the back unhurriedly, looking around at the surrounding situation. The woods are all covered with short-legged trees. At a glance, they are sparse and sparse. The sunlight falls on the green vegetation, revealing a gleaming emerald green sheen. The six of them walked out of the woods and walked directly to the edge of the cliff. The old man took the lead and unexpectedly turned his steps and walked down from the end of the cliff, as if he had jumped directly from the cliff. Garen was shocked. The others followed closely, with Garen walking at the back until he reached the end of the cliff and looked down. The buildings below the cliff are like exquisite black boxes, less than the size of a palm. Only then did he realize that there was a stone step diagonally downwards built on the cliff at his feet. The old man in front has already walked a long distance. The stone steps are close to the cliff, like a groove dug out of the black cliff, extending downward. Garen glanced at the fox in front of him. He was not surprised at all. He had obviously seen such a battle before. He hurriedly followed, walking along the stone steps to the lower right step by step. Grasping the black stone railing on the left, a cold feeling suddenly came from his palm, and Garen walked down the steep stone steps. On the left side of the stone staircase passage, a large amount of high cold wind blew in, with the hood constantly flipping and making a snapping sound. The six of them were silent and walked down quietly. On the black cliff, the stone staircase passage is like a crack on the cliff, extending from the top of the cliff to the middle. The six people walked inside, like black ants crawling in the cracks of the stones, silently and inconspicuously. Walked for about 2 minutes. What suddenly opened up in front was a wide, spherical hall. On the central ground is a huge bird's nest with a diameter of more than 10 meters. The bird's nest is made of earth-yellow dead tree trunks and is oval-shaped. There is a huge black bird lying inside. The giant bird looks like an enlarged version of a crow. It is completely pitch black, except for a pair of shockingly yellow eyes, which shine brightly and glow with yellow light in the somewhat dark cave. The giant bird is more than 7 meters long, lying quietly in the nest, with a natural depression on its back. The old man walked over first, and the black light array under his feet flashed away. With a ding sound, his whole body jumped slightly, as if a spring was added to his feet. When he flew into the air, the black light array under his feet lit up again, pushing him right into the depression on the back of the giant bird. "Everyone has a black crow, follow me and don't fall behind," he shouted loudly from a high place. Immediately, everyone moved towards the surrounding walls of the cave, where there were tunnels connecting other caves. Garin also picked one and walked over. After walking along the tunnel for a while, there was another huge black crow lying in the nest. Black Crow glanced at him, his yellow eyes flashing with a fierce light, but he immediately felt the special aura on his body and became docile. Garin touched the diamond ring on his hand. This ring was made of black metal and inlaid with 4 yellow diamonds arranged in a rhombus shape. As expected of the 3 major institutions, there are many good things. Garin touched the ring, and a black light array flashed under his feet, like a disc spring, erupting with a gentle elasticity. Taking advantage of this power, Garin jumped up and stepped on his foot again in mid-air. The black light array flashed again and gently fell into the depression on the black crow's back. There is warmth in the depression, and it is soft under your feet when you stand. There are large feathers in front for you to hold onto. "Kyoto, are you ready?" The old man's voice came from his pocket. Garin opened his waist bag and took out a small round black box from which the sound came from. "Ready," he whispered back. "This is your first time riding the Black Crow. Please pay attention to safety and keep in touch at all times," the old man warned. "No matter what he does, he won't even get out of here early." Mao Mao didn't know why he disliked Garin, and he always felt unhappy with him. "Hurry up. If you come back early, you can catch up with dinner tonight." Hong Umbrella was still yawning, and his voice came out clearly from the black box. "Then let's go," the old man agreed. Garin clapped the yellow diamond ring on his hand, and the black crow at his feet suddenly trembled slightly. The black crow stood up from its nest and ran forward quickly. Bang bang bang. After several steps, a white light suddenly lit up in front of him. "Call." There was the sound of a black crow spreading its wings, and its huge wings more than 10 meters fluttered out of the cave. It flew out of the irregular circular hole, pressed an arc downward, and shot straight into the sky. On the black cliff, 6 black crows rushed out of the cave one after another, fluttering their wings and soaring into the sky. "Draw 6 rounded flight arcs." "Woo! Ha ha!" A kitten's meowing sound came from the left. Garin's eyes adjusted to the sudden dazzling sunlight, facing the strong wind, and squinted to look around. He felt like he was tilting upwards, with strong cold wind hitting his face and pouring into his nostrils and neck. Everything around him was skewed and swaying. He clutched the black feather tightly, conveyed the order to the black crow to follow the black crow in front, and stopped paying attention. With a whoosh, the fox's black crow passed by from the right side and rushed to the front very quickly. Then he was caught up by the kitten again, and the 2 of them chased each other. After a few times, only 2 small black spots were left. "You 2, don't fall behind," the old man's voice came from the black box. Garin turned back and looked down. The royal capital below is already only the size of a palm. The entire royal capital is deep among the mountains, surrounded by isolated cities, as if it were a city built on the top of the mountains. It seems mysterious and ancient. The royal capital is getting smaller and smaller, getting further and further away. Garin's hood can no longer be covered, and is torn off by the strong wind, and his long golden hair dances wildly in the wind. "Be careful, we are about to enter the clouds," the old man's voice came from the black box. Garin pinned the black box to his collar, just enough that the box could be pinned to the golden iris and hung firmly. The voice has not yet fallen. Before Garin could answer, he felt a large white cloud coming toward him, wet and cold, as if someone was spraying water mist on him. The surrounding area turned completely white. "Ga!" Ahead the black crow cawed. Ga. Ga. The black crow under the seat also made a strange cry. The crows seemed to use this as a signal to locate each other. The rumbling sound echoed in the ears and lasted for half a minute. Finally, there was a crash in front of my eyes, and it instantly broke through the clouds. The golden sun hangs quietly in the deep blue sky in the distance, with a vast sea of white clouds below. Some of the sea of clouds are sunken, and you can see the mountains below the clouds as thin as a sand table. Some clouds protrude like strange-shaped pillars. Other clouds are just balls of cotton, floating independently. Above the vast and boundless clouds, 6 huge black crows were like 6 sesame dots, fluttering their wings inconspicuously. We need to continue flying for 2 hours, and the place is a bit far. Pay attention to your pockets, don't be blown away, the old man warned without boredom. Garin looked back towards where he came from. Suddenly he was slightly startled. Above the royal capital, looking from a distance, the entire sky above the royal capital is filled with a grey-black halo. This kind of halo is like mist, floating and lingering directly above the entire royal capital. At the same time, a large number of black tentacles are faintly detected, floating in the surrounding air. Did you see it? Judo, the old man's voice came again. That is the strongest defensive formation in the royal capital. Without permission, no bird creature can pass through the heights of the royal capital. It's spectacular, Garin praised. The black crows flew forward in parallel, forming a herringbone formation. Time passed by minute, and soon more than half an hour passed. Everyone, be careful. The Xinongfa defense line is about to appear in front, and there may be high-altitude monster attacks this time. It was the voice of Red Umbrella. The young man rarely yawned. Garin also cheered up slightly and increased his vigilance. Not long after the reminder, 2 strange birds suddenly rushed up from under the sea of clouds in front. Wow! Wow! A strange cry like a child's cry came from the front. The strange bird is purple and black, looks like a vulture, has a snake-like neck, and has 4 red eyes on its head. The 2 strange birds were about 7 or 8 meters in size. As soon as they rushed up, they saw 6 giant black crows that were more than 10 meters long. They suddenly panicked, turned around and jumped down into the clouds, disappearing. It's a 4-eyed bird, one of the few monsters that can fly up to 7 or 8,000 meters in the air. It can be compared to the more powerful existence of the second type totem. But unfortunately, we are sitting on the more powerful giant black crow. One, if you stare down with death, you can kill these 2 little guys instantly. The old man smiled in a relaxed mood, more like he was explaining to Garin. I originally wanted to try the meat quality of the 4-eyed bird, but it runs so fast every time, came the bored voice of the kitten. The front is the low altitude zone, the airspace of that perverted monster. Please follow me and lower your altitude, the old man said loudly. I know. As always, Brother Red Umbrella is the last. Everyone replied one after another. Garin was a little curious as to what kind of monster it was that could actually make the Type 3 totem masters of the secret agency give in. But Gao Kong didn't take the initiative to ask. The black crow followed closely in front and suddenly sank down, lowering its altitude and diving down. Call. Suddenly plunged into the vast sea of white clouds. A lot of moisture rushes towards you. More than 10 seconds later, the clouds burst open, revealing a large white mountain range below, interspersed with dark green forests and lakes. The black crows swooped down and flew towards the mirror-like lake. The lake reflected the white clouds, clear and pure. Several huge black turtles were basking in the sun by the lake, like pieces of black stone, heavy and clumsy. A group of light yellow cicada were drinking water by the trunk of a fallen dead tree, taking small sips and moving their ears sensitively from time to time. Call. 6 huge black crows rushed down and passed by the mirror-like blue lake. The strong wind caused the lake water to ripple, causing large ripples. The cicada screamed and fled from the lake in a hurry. The black turtle simply retracted its head into its shell and remained motionless, pretending to be dead. Garin stood on the back of the black crow, watching the lake quickly retreating, and the bottom quickly turned into a forest. A large number of birds were frightened and flew up, fleeing in groups to both sides. I actually saw 3 female campers roasting something around a campfire below. When 2 of them heard the sound, they immediately stood up and looked up into the air, their mouths wide open, as if they had seen a ghost. Woo, the kitten meowed strangely again. 6 giant black crows flew through the woods, causing large leaves to rustle. Mysterious Journey. Author, Gunkai. Chapter 373. Black crows flew across the vast sea of trees, fluttering their wings from time to time. Garin tightly grasped the black iron-like feathers of the tree root and stood in the depression, feeling warm all over. The black crow continuously emits warm body temperature, filling the depressions to keep it warm. After flying for who knows how long, the vast forest sea below finally disappeared. At the end of the forest sea is a huge circular basin. The sunken basin is like a huge red stone basin. In the middle, there is a deep and huge black canyon. 6 black crows flew out from the edge of the forest sea, crossed the edge of the basin, swooped down, and rushed straight into the canyon. Garin took up the position of the black crow and rushed straight into the dark Grand Canyon. Both sides were steep and uneven red rocks. The bottom was pitch black, nothing could be seen, and there was a faint trace of white clouds floating in the air. Whoosh! The black crow flapped its wings and flew over a corner of the canyon. The strong wind blew away some loose stones, and several red stones fell into the deep crevices below. Garin leaned down and looked at the cracks in the canyon that turned left and right in front of him and moved quickly. The rapid flight speed and the complicated twists and turns of the canyon always gave him the feeling that he might hit the rock wall at any time. My mission has arrived, let's go first. Hong Umbrella's voice came from the black box. Be careful, the old man replied. No. A black crow left the team and flew into the canyon branch on the left. Pounce towards a huge old building in front of you. The building is a huge red stone bust of a minotaur. It raises its fists high and roars to the sky. The lower body is directly connected to a huge cliff. The entire red cliff seems to have been hollowed out, creating an ancient ruin. Garin only caught a glimpse of it as it flew by, but did not fully see it. We moved forward for a while. Soon, the fox and the kitten also left the team. Finally it was Garin's turn, and he remembered the location features on the map. My mission point has also arrived, let's go first, he said directly to the box. Pay attention to the situation nearby, and leave some room to prevent possible accidents, the old man warned, clearly showing the personality of a good old man. Brother Jatu, come on. The child flew to Garin's side, stood on the back of the black crow and raised his fist at him. If you have any difficulties, just call me. My mission point is not very far. Thank you, Garin smiled. Although he didn't know the strength of the other members of the red team, he was probably the least likely to have problems among everyone. The strength of the red team is still very strong. Everyone in it has the ability to independently fight against multiple Type 3 monsters, and it seems quite easy. In other words, they all have at least the top level of Type 3, and even the strength of Aura. Garin thought to himself that his spiritual power should have reached the royal capital. And it must have spread in the capital, but it is still not taken seriously by the red team. I really don't know why. But now I think these are not important. The important thing is that this mission can be a legitimate opportunity to brush up on dive sites. Garin planned to evolve the 9th head of the 8-headed dragon first, and then focus on improving the secret weapon to see what effect it had. Controlling the black crow to turn to the right, Garin suddenly flew into a black-red branch road. At the far end, a large triangular red stone wall is clearly visible, like a huge red honeycomb, filled with large and small holes. Ghostly whining sounds kept coming from the hollow, and it was extremely silent. Garen drove the black crow and rushed over. He was getting closer and closer to the red hive, and the hive was getting bigger and bigger. Each of the holes has a diameter of more than half a meter, and all the holes are arranged neatly. Together, they form a huge triangle that is hundreds of meters long and wide. The black crow flew around the triangular honeycomb stone wall and didn't see any living things, not even any green plants. He controlled the black crow to descend slowly and landed on a flat protruding stone on the stone wall. Boom! The black crow with a wingspan of more than 10 meters flapped its wings twice, bringing up gusts of wind, and landed gently on the ground, folding its wings. Garen jumped up from his back, flipped his body slightly in mid-air, and a black light array lit up under his feet, buffering the gravity of his fall, and landed gently on the ground. White Dragon, go! Garen then remembered that he had destroyed the deduction device. Because he was afraid of the tracking technology of the Black Sky Society, he still chose to destroy it after all, even though he had no way to eliminate the hidden danger. He shook his head slightly, straightened out his somewhat messy black skirt and armor, and put on the hood on his head, hiding his whole body in the armor. The surrounding area is empty, with a triangular honeycomb in front, a stone wall on the left, and a bottomless cliff abyss at the foot of the right. Garen stomped on the ground. Bang bang. Very dull sound. Very strong. Garen looked up at the huge red triangle in front of him and ordered the black crow to stay here and wait. He took 2 steps forward and missed the target. Ding. The black light array flashed under his feet. Garen jumped lightly and flew into the air. His feet dinged again in mid-air, and the black light array lit up. He jumped directly towards the triangular stone wall as if he were stepping on the steps of the black light array. One after another, with the right amount of force, Garen jumped 4 times in succession, falling directly to the top of the triangular stone wall. Suddenly, from below on the right side, a huge red stone ball flew towards Garen like a cannonball. Bang! The stone ball, which was as tall as a person, shattered into countless pieces and exploded. The air around Garen twisted for a moment, then returned to normal. He turned his head and looked down to the right, and his body gently landed on the top of the triangular stone wall. What dares to sneak attack me? He looked intently. On the red stone wall on the lower right side, a cave 7 or 8 meters high appeared at some point. It was so dark that it was impossible to see the bottom. Standing at the entrance of the cave was a long-haired monster covered in silvery gray. The monster is like a hunched human being, standing on 2 feet, with long red claws on its arms, holding a huge stone ball like a human hand. Its head has only one huge red eye, and its mouth is full of fine white sharp teeth. It seems that this is the goal of my mission this time. Garen was not surprised but overjoyed. One-eyed behemoth. He recalled the information. This giant beast named One-eyed Behemoth has extremely sharp claws, powerful strength, and agile movements. It can dig a cave tunnel tens of meters long in half a minute. It has unknown abilities, and no one has actually come into contact with it until now. While the secret agency is cleaning out monsters, it also needs to collect first-hand information to reduce possible damage in the future. Ouch! The one-eyed behemoth roared angrily, and the stone ball in his hand slammed towards Garen again. Garen made no move, just stood there quietly, watching the stone balls tumble towards him. Bang! The stone ball shattered and exploded again. At the same time, a twist appeared in the air, vaguely like a ferocious mouth. What a powerful force! Garen felt that the power of the stone ball was twice as strong this time, and the dragon head biting the stone ball was faintly shocked, making his mouth numb. The fragments had just exploded, and there was still a bit of lime left that had not dispersed. 3 more stone balls appeared in Garen's field of vision, all rolling at the same rapid speed and hitting them head-on. He snorted coldly, jumped up, and easily dodged the attack of the stone ball. There was a flash of light under his feet, pushing him towards the cave on the lower right. The black armor made a whirring sound in the air. Garen drew a black line and pounced directly on the one-eyed behemoth. Hoo ho ho! Suddenly, 3 more stone balls shot out from behind him, slamming into Garen's back. Like a barrage of cannonballs. Garen was in mid-air and had no time to react, and was hit hard by the first one. Bang! I don't know when a big hole appeared on the stone wall behind Garen. In front of the hole stood a 7-8 meter tall silver-gray one-eyed behemoth. The one-eyed behemoth here actually has 2 heads. The one-eyed behemoth opened its hands, and its palms continuously gathered a large number of surrounding stones, as if there was an invisible force helping it collect the stones and condense them into stone balls. Throw one out and he will condense another one. Speed moves extremely fast. In just 3 seconds, 6 were thrown out. The huge stone ball was formed instantly with one blast, and then was smashed out. The 2 one-eyed behemoths smashed a bunch of stone balls into the air, then stopped and looked into the air. The gravel splashed down by the stone ball almost smashed the stone wall closer to the right into a hornet's nest. Astonishingly powerful. The air is filled with diffuse red ash. You treat me to a pile of stone balls as soon as you come up. It's so fierce. Garen's figure emerged from the red lime. The light of the black totem all over his body dimmed slightly and became invisible. His whole body was unscathed, and he fluttered towards the stone wall on the right side. The one-eyed behemoth on the left roared and started smashing stone balls again. Behemoth on the right, on the other hand, remained silent, turned around, got into the cave and disappeared. The movements are extremely skilled and surprisingly fast. Galen landed in front of the hole on the right, with a twisted transparent vortex behind him constantly resisting the stone ball shells coming from behind. Each one continued to make a huge roar, causing the mountain wall to vibrate slightly. Cunning little guy. Garen looked back at the opposite side, where the behemoth was smashing it happily. The stone balls were thrown one after another, and it seemed that there was no way to finish them all. One-eyed behemoth, ability 1, stone ball throwing, power above type 3, close to aura, can produce splash damage. Garen took out a small notebook and carefully recorded the ability. After the stone ball roared for a while, it seemed that it did not pose a threat to Garen, so the opponent stopped throwing it. One-eyed behemoth raised his head and roared angrily, his one-eyed eyes suddenly turned red. The body swelled faintly, becoming much stronger, and the silver-gray fur all over the body had a faint hint of red. It kicked its feet hard, and with a bang, it jumped towards Galen from a distance like a monkey. A pair of sharp red claws shimmered as they slashed towards Garen. With this jump, it actually jumped directly across the canyon of more than 20 meters, and threw itself in front of the cliff on the opposite side. Its tall body brought out a black shadow and slammed towards Garen's position.